I'm Jeff Roussel. I'm the Vice President of Sales at KaiNexus, and I'm excited to talk with you guys today about our next webinar, which is going to be about bottom-up improvement. I'm very kind of excited to go through this topic. It's near and dear for me, so let's go ahead and get started. And for those of you who might not know KaiNexus, we are very simply put a group of people that are focused around the goal of helping organizations to spread a culture of continuous improvement. We continually work on developing a technology that supports the proper leadership behaviors and good continuous improvement processes. And so the way that we do that, the way that KaiNexus does that, is quite simply by connecting the collaboration needs within an organization with the reporting requirements. And so collaboration is essentially the daily activities that need to be optimized for improvement to flourish within an organization. It's the day-to-day workflows, the notifications, the ability to search information and communicate with others on the improvement work that we're doing. While reporting is the mechanism that really brings everything together in a visible way. The goal is to support better decision making. It's that kind of focus on the strategic and that understanding of the current state and helping organizations to make better data-driven decisions around improvement. And so in the past, these two areas were primarily disconnected across multiple systems. We see spreadsheets and dashboards and et cetera, but connecting them really eliminates a lot of the waste that happens in improvement, and it overcomes many of the roadblocks and really allows an improvement culture to take hold. And so what we're going to talk about today is one of what I call the three focus areas of improvement. So there are three primary areas of focus that when organizations are building an improvement culture, they really have to pay attention to. Now, I'm presenting these in no particular order, and in fact, different organizations choose to start their journey at different points. So don't feel like you have to go in a certain direction here, but the first focus area that we'll kind of just describe briefly is strategy deployment. And this is the requirement of an organization to establish an organizational strategy, to figure out what the goals are within the organization and then cascade those goals and the supporting initiatives down throughout the organization. Then there's top-down improvement. Top-down improvement is honestly quite similar to traditional project management. It's the goals and the projects that are initiated by leadership and then operationalized throughout the organization. And this is an extremely important part of doing improvement well throughout an organization. And then lastly, and the one that we're going to focus on today, is bottom-up improvement. And personally, this is my favorite. It's the one that I think about when I'm discussing a culture of continuous improvement. In my opinion, this is the one that really engages everyone in those small, low-risk improvements that can have a profound impact on an organization. And I think that as we see organizations that do this well, the bottom-up improvement actually leads them to create better habits within their organization. And I think that's really where sustained long-term improvement success comes from. So we're going to cover the strategic deployment and the top-down improvements in a different webinar. But today we're going to focus on bottom-up improvement. Now, bottom-up improvement can be somewhat simple in concept, and it can be difficult to execute on because it does require kind of the discipline of developing daily habits around improvement. But as with any focus area, doing it right is a combination of the behaviors that you teach, the processes that you create, and the technology that you use to support everything and make everything as easily as possible. Now, that said, as you're thinking about these and developing those behaviors and processes, there are four very simple steps that you need to focus on as you're developing a bottom-up improvement culture. The first of those is what we call capture. The goal of capture is to get as many suggestions as possible from your people. Now, these suggestions should be focused on waste within your organization, but we need to make it as easy as possible for our people to speak up. Those people are doing work every day, and they're going to be in the best position to identify waste and speak up about those issues. Step 2 is what we call implement. We have to develop good processes to make change happen. The best improvement organizations implement nearly 90% of the suggestions that their employees bring forward. Now, we're not there yet at KaiNexus, and you may not be there yet at your organization, but this is the goal to strive for. We are looking to implement change. Not only does this make a huge difference to the organization, but it encourages your people and it makes them feel listened to, and it has a way of kind of compounding on itself and leading to more and more and more improvement over time. The third step is to measure. We keep score of what's important to us. So measuring is an awesome signal to the organization that improvement matters. And what we'll see is that we have to create very simple processes in order to be able to capture the impact of our improvement so that we can share it both up and down the chains in our organization. And then the fourth step is to share. When we do improvement, we create best practices, and we want those best practices to be applied throughout our organization. We also want to call out our best improvers, and we want to let people know that this is important. What I've found is that if we skip any of these steps, then we will have trouble sustaining an improvement culture. So it's important to keep track of all of these steps. So let's see how KaiNexus actually supports these processes to help organizations create a bottom-up culture. For those of you who don't know, KaiNexus is a web-based continuous improvement software platform. We built the system to help facilitate the proper behaviors and processes for organizations to create an improvement culture. Today, we're going to walk through how that affects bottom-up improvement. As we just saw, the first step in bottom-up improvement is to capture as many suggestions as possible from our people. So we do that by giving them the ability to create improvement ideas whenever they notice a problem within our organization. Now, I'm doing it here on the KaiNexus, in the KaiNexus web application, but some of your employees might find it easier to use their mobile phone and to use the KaiNexus mobile app. Others might find it easier if you create a kiosk near their workstation for them to be able to generate ideas. And even others might find that paper is still the easiest mechanism for that. Those are all great. The goal here is to make it as easy as possible for our employees to speak up. In that case, in that same kind of vein, making forms that employees need to fill out as simple as possible is a key indicator of increased improvement ideas. So what you'll see here is that I've taken the liberty of only creating 2 required fields for an improvement. I don't want my employees to have to think too hard about voicing a suggestion. So we'll just go ahead and do an example. And let's say that one of our employees had the idea that we need to reorganize our storage closet. But we waste at least 15 minutes searching for those supplies every time we get a new order. Now, we could ask our people for proposed solutions, ask them to identify which strategic pillar this affects. But in my opinion, anything that we ask that's not necessary at this point could potentially lead to a lost idea. So I would recommend making this as simple as possible and simply get our people to create as many of these improvement ideas as possible. Then a system like KaiNexus can actually help by ensuring that the proper people are notified of each of those ideas. The goal is for, one, these new suggestions to never fall through the cracks. But two, as we talk about the correct behaviors that you need to develop, one of the most important things is to let your employees know that you appreciate their ideas. And so by having a technology notify the managers and the supervisors in the chain of command, we have that ability then to close the loop by making sure that we say thank you whenever our employees notice the wasteful step. From there, KaiNexus then provides visibility so that managers and supervisors can see the ideas that their teams are working on at any given point in time. So as the manager of a team, I can see very easily that one of my employees submitted a new idea about reorganizing our storage closet. Again, this is where the correct behaviors come into play. As a manager, I have to know that it is my responsibility to respond to this new idea in a timely manner. I would venture to say 24 to 48 hours at a maximum. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to solve the problem in that amount of time. What it does mean is we're going to thank the person who gave us the idea, and we're going to have a conversation about this improvement as a team, and then decide on what to do as a next step. And we see this in KaiNexus, the ability of the manager to either escalate or to assign this type of work to a team member, and the ability now as a manager to be able to associate this work with things like strategic initiatives, prioritizing the work, gives us that opportunity now at a suggestion that's already been submitted to organize it in the way that allows us to then move forward with implementing change. So the first step is for that conversation to happen between the supervisor and the author. The next step is then to make sure that someone is assigned to this task and that we're actually going to track it to a particular date. That way we're not just assigning work in a random fashion. We're going to keep track of this work in a very specific way. Now, we may have one person work on this. We may have a team of people work on this improvement. But by using a system like KaiNexus, all of the people will be notified. And when we do gather as a team, we will now have an active improvement to track to make sure that reorganizing this storage closet never really falls through the cracks. The next step we're still within implementation. The next step is for this team to use KaiNexus to collaborate with one another to actually work through this problem and hopefully solve this issue. Now, that can take on any number of forms, right? We might convert this to an A3 or to a PDSA project, or maybe it's a DMAIC project, depending on the methodology that we choose. We might choose to actually keep it as a very simple project and simply use KaiNexus to assign comments and have conversations around this issue until we come up with a resolution. KaiNexus becomes the collaboration platform that gives your people one place to have those conversations and then provides visibility into those conversations to anyone who needs to see it. Once we've made the change, once we've made the necessary improvement within our organization, the next step in the bottom-up improvement process is to measure. Measuring is how we make sure that we keep score on these projects. In KaiNexus, that's called resolution. It is our job to create a simple process that our people can use in order to capture the impact of the improvements that they're doing throughout the organization. So let's see how that would work. Let's say that we redesigned the storage closet. And then the system is asking, well, did that result in a change? Well, yes, it did. And we think that we saved our administrators, of which we have 10, about 1 hour per week. We are now capturing the impact of the project. Now, you might have a different methodology or a different way that you wish to track impact in your organization, and that's fine. This is a very configurable part of KaiNexus. But whether you want to track cost savings, revenue generation, safety changes, quality improvement, customer satisfaction changes, completely up to you. My recommendation is that you figure out a way to keep score, make it as simple as possible so that your employees can participate in helping you track that impact, and then allowing them to resolve the work that they're doing in a way that you can then understand the impact across your organization. And we'll look at that in just a second. So I'm going to finish out this improvement by asking the system to remind me in 90 days to revisit this to make sure that the process has remained the same. And then I'm going to complete this improvement, which will actually bring us now to the fourth stage of the bottom-up improvement process, which is to share. Once we have made positive change within our organization, it's imperative that we let other people know about it. Not only can they make the same changes in their work area, but we signal to the organization the importance of improvement by highlighting the good work that we do. So in this case, I'll let our product management group and our sales group know that we've made this change to our storage closet, and they'll get that in a digest that KaiNexus sends out on a scheduled basis. So by completing this improvement, we now have a completed improvement that is part of the knowledge record of our organization. And anytime someone searches on, for instance, the word storage closet, this improvement will show up, and they have the ability to track through the entire collaboration history of the work that we did in order to save time around our storage situation. So we've essentially walked through the 4 steps of the bottom-up improvement cycle, and I would consider that the collaboration piece of how technology supports improvement. Now, with the time remaining, let's talk a little bit about the reporting piece of how technology can support improvement. So one of the screens we looked at earlier was an electronic version of a Huddle board or an idea board in KaiNexus. KaiNexus has the ability to customize dashboards and solve a number of different problems, but one of those problems is a way for teams and managers to organize the work that they're doing and make sure that they have access to in this case, the completed work that they've done, that they know the work that's actively being worked on and can visually see that, for instance, there's only 8, so we're not biting off more than we can chew right now. We know what's planned that we're going to have to deal with. And as a manager, I know that I have a new idea that I have to assign soon because someone on my team came up with a suggestion. By being able to do this, not just in the product management group, but in the marketing group, in the executive group, etc., what we create is a standard way in which teams can manage their improvement day-to-day collaboration. So KaiNexus with the dashboards provides a way for organizations to create those standards, and then they can teach a certain process and methodology throughout their organization. In addition, from a reporting standpoint, it is very important that we understand the results of our efforts. So if I look at our product management team, I want to be able to see, for instance, how many bottom-up suggestions have been submitted over time and how many have been completed. I want to be able to see that things have kind of flattened out since January. So we might actually have a problem on this team that we need to work with. I want to be able to report to executives the type of savings or revenue that this team has generated with their improvement efforts. And then at a higher level, I want to be able to drive reporting in order to be able to articulate the health of our improvement culture and in order to be able to understand where we need to spend our time coaching. So I can see that over the last 6 months, my organization has worked on 113 bottom-up improvements. I know that 16 of them are overdue. And so on a daily basis, I might do what we call run to the red and actually review these 16 overdue improvements and work with the responsible people to see if we can push things forward. In addition to status, what we call the health indicators are the activity, the engagement, and the impact of the improvement work that we're doing. These three metrics balance one another out. I can see that we've saved or had a financial impact of $1.24 million in this last 6 months. But quite honestly, that could have all come from one project that we were working on. So I would use the activity numbers to make sure that we were actually participating in improvement on a daily basis. And then I would use the engagement numbers to make sure that the activity is not coming from just one or two people on my team. That my team as a whole is engaged, is using the system, is logging in. From there, I would use the detailed reports to kind of dig deeper. One, this gives me the ability to articulate our current status. But two, it allows me to see issues and bottlenecks before they become huge problems and then focus my attention as a coach in order to provide help throughout the organization. So let's recap. The 4 steps of the bottom-up process: capture, implement, measure, share. KaiNexus supports those and ensures that you go through each of those 4 steps completely in order to maximize the potential of your improvement work. Then we connect all of that activity with the reporting in the system in order to give you visibility into the current state and the ability to make data-driven decisions about how to make your improvement culture better. My advice about bottom-up improvement is to just get started. Ask your people to find problems for you and then develop simple processes to solve those problems. This doesn't have to be hard and it doesn't have to be complex. In fact, the best organizations figure out a way to make this simple, but they develop the habits and the discipline to where bottom-up improvement becomes a part of everyday life. So let's talk, before we go into Q&A, I want to say thank you. Our next webinar is on March 30th from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Time. It is about engaging leaders and the Baldrige framework to advance excellence. Then we're going to have another of our kind of ongoing Ask Us Anything episodes, which are extremely popular, on April 17th. Then we're going to do the second phase of this series where we talk about using software to do top-down improvement. And then lastly, in May, we'll do the third part of the series where we talk about how to use software to support strategy deployment. So I hope you'll join me for those sessions and our guest webinar presenters for the one around the Baldrige framework. Also, if you want more information, I would recommend that one, you can reach out to me directly. My name and email address will be on one of the slides. Also, if you're not signed up on the KaiNexus blogs, we have two blogs. We have kind of an improvement focused blog, and we have one that's specifically for customers that explains features and things like that in the platform. I would highly recommend it. All of our webinars are recorded and provided on demand on the website. We also have ebooks and other materials. So if you're kind of in the improvement game, I would strongly recommend using our website as a resource. And you can find those links here along with my email address, or if you prefer, my Twitter handle. So I want to thank everyone for listening. If you have any questions, please reach out to me directly. And otherwise, we'll look forward to seeing you on our next webinar.